Hello, so I'm playing my new brew. It's Naya Rocco Blade. It's also an Asmo deck. The main purpose of this Rocco in this deck is turn 2 or turn 3 play Rocco into Asmo, finding us the Underworld Cookbook. Okay, so in this deck, we have the lowest number of Asmo enablers than in any other Asmo deck. So we are playing just 4 cookbooks and 4 Rocco Cabaretti Caterer. Okay, so part of why I think this build is good is you don't have to play all the bad Asmo package cards, as we are playing 4 Eljamis Call and only 1 Old Chase Devil that we can tutor for when we have like multiple cookbooks on the field, something like that, against certain matchups where we really need it. But mostly it's not even needed. You just use it, discard your lands and some stuff you don't need just to get a few food tokens, and that's usually enough to kill 1 or 2 creatures, because this deck is really aggressive, but also has a kind of good card advantage in Rocco, which is really 3 cards. So one Rocco gets us Asmo and Cookbook into hand. Also, Cookbook can be used to return Rocco to hand late game, and then Rocco can be used to find some more expensive targets like Ranger Captain of Eos or Magus of the Moon or Pyromancer, which then can bring us multiple cards. And it's really a nice card advantage system going on here. So, okay, so we are playing 4 Hierarchs and 4 Ragavans, uh, which enable us to sometimes play Rocco turn 2, and playing Rocco on turn 2 into Asmo is definitely great, especially if you do it with Dragon. Then you have like 8 power turn 2 on table, which is pretty hard for most decks to deal with. And aside from that, they still have to deal with what you're going to play turn 3. So it's insane pressure. And also getting cookbook into hand is nice, because you can play it for 1 mana, and then late game, if it comes to that, you can return some important piece to your hand, or even return a Fury and immediately cast it for for its evoke cost. And that's it. Aside from that, we are playing a Stoneforge package, playing just Caldra, Sophie, and 1 Lion Sash. I think these 3 are best fit for this deck, but also 1 Feast and Famine on sideboard, that you can replace Sophie with against certain matchups. So 3 Ranger, Captain of Eos. I opted for 1 Season Pyro, 1 Magus, and 3 Ranger instead for 4 Rangers, just because we're playing Jammy's Call, and it's nice to have that option to sometimes find the Pyromancer when your hand is empty or something like that. So I decided that first Pyro is better than a 4th Ranger. Okay, so on sideboard, we have some Graveyard Hate, some removals, 1 of Solitude, second Magus of the Moon, some Artifact Hate, 4th Asmo, because Asmo is really good against certain matchups, and they do everything they can to kill it, so you want to bring in the 4th one then, but it's not really mandatory. You don't have to play 4. I think that in this deck 3 is totally fine. But a few times I had Rocco and didn't have my 4th Asmo needed for me to win the game. So I think it's pretty good against certain matchups, and you even want to draw it uh, as as often as possible. So I'm playing Burnton because it's a Ranger Captain of Field's target, also Giant Killer. We don't have many removal, but we have Furies, which is tutorable. We have few endings, and Solitude and Sideboard. And also Asmo as our main removal. So that's it. I just played the league and I finished 4-1. It should really be 5-0, but I was greedy one game, the fourth game, and kept one lander playing first game three. And it was a pretty decent matchup for me. I think I will surely win that with the normal two land hand with six cards. But it is what it is. I think it was a pretty cool league, and we'll just go through the matches and yeah, see how the deck did and how it feels in play. I'm really optimistic for this build. I really like it. I really enjoy playing it. Uh, okay, so game one, it's not really good hand. Only three cards: Cookbook, Lion Sash, Drum is cool. I didn't have any answer to Rocco on turn one, so it was pretty bad situation for me. Um, I played my Stoneforge, find my sword, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to cast my Caldra, but it was definitely not good. I had a good play here. I tried to find my Fury to get back to kill both of their creatures, but unfortunately they had Croxa, and it was a game over for me. They just had fetch for fifth land in graveyards to cast Croxa, and that was it. Yeah, so pretty bad decision there to not block Ragavan, definitely. Okay, so I won't go through a cyber plan because the deck is still new, and I just want to play some more before advising on sideboards. Okay, so playing first this time, I just discarded my land and decided that I want to play Asma immediately. I had Eldramis in hand, drew Rocco from the top, but I decided to fetch for Oval Chase this turn and just start using my cookbooks in case they play some creatures I can't kill. They didn't have Delirium, so they had to uh, use two spells to kill Asmo, and I had my Rocco in hand. And I didn't play it last turn, obviously, because I could only find Asmo, and I already had one. So it really worked out great for me, just finding another Asmo, finding another cookbook, having my old Chasing Devil, making bunch of food tokens, which means they have to kill my Asmo, or I just kill all of their creatures. Um, Okay, they just drew cast iteration, found nothing, and concede. Game three, you could see this game just how good one card uh, makes up for all the card disadvantage. So just I again didn't have an answer to Ragavan, but I was able to cast my Stoneforge, turn through, find my Lancesh, hoped they don't have removal so I can jump block here. But I had two creatures in hand, and it was important for them just not to get anything too strong off the top of my top. So I played Rocco, find the Asmo, and you can see that this is just a very powerful play. They again had just you get so much value here from just one card. Okay, I played turn four. I played my Stoneforge. It got countered, so I played my Lancesh, obviously wanting to jump this Ragavan, and I finally succeeded to do so. They cast iteration, unfortunately, another one. Uh, but I guess they just find Ragavan and nothing better. So I had my Season Pyromancer next turn. I was able to make one token, of, cast my Asmo, cast my Fury. So I was pretty happy how this went. Okay, they were in this situation. They were on 0 cards in hand, so I was able to cast my Fury, attack with the Season Pyro, and unfortunately they top decked well. They top decked very good, and when they attacked, that was the perfect moment for me to block a trade here, and just use my cookbook to bring back Fury. I also discarded my Stoneforge to make one food token in response to their Inquisition. Uh, they are on 0 cards in hand, and I have 2 cookbooks, and you really use cookbooks a lot in this way, in this deck. So cookbook is a really strong late game piece which can bring you back from your graveyard pieces you need to just win the game. And again, the most powerful play in deck: cast Rocco, find Asmo, find cookbook, and that's it. That was game one. Very fun game for me against Grixis. I think definitely Rocco is a big problem for them. They had to just use so many cards. Okay, I was greedy this game too. Kept one lander. But fortunately, I did draw one. I'm playing at 22 lands, and that's the reason why I sometimes think it's worth keeping one lander with Dork and multiple one mana spells. Um, but yeah, I maybe shouldn't not knowing again what to play against. Maybe probably shouldn't do it. But I had the Stoneforge turn 2, which is very good deck play against Jund Sacrifice deck. So, so playing second, I decided it's best to kill their Hierarch turn 1. They played Totsis turn 2, discarded my Season Pyro, so I just wanted to get my Resting Peace into play. Uh, because they play Bloodgust, they play lots of different cards that Rest in Peace can be valuable, but unfortunately they had Grease turn 3, good Coco turn 4, and that was over for me. Not really much chance doing anything at this point, but it's completely different playing first, especially when starting with multiple dorks. It can be very aggressive. Just going turn to Stoneforge into Hierarch, and Caldera is definitely a big problem for them. And they didn't. They had the answer, but it wasn't a very good answer because they had to sack their Hierarch, and I was able to immediately kill their Grist. Uh, so now I just cast my Ranger and Hierarch. And they were on 3 mana, so it was a pretty good position for me. A lot of damage here. They played another Grist, which is a great jumper with 3 Hierarchs, obviously, but I had a lot of stuff going on, so just played my Ragavan, played my Lancesh. I decided that it's best to sack a Ranger here in response to them sacking the fetch in case they have Coco. But I thought that my hand is good enough that I don't have to that I don't have to like hold my ranger on the field because of the damage, and that was it. So I just attacked. I just find my fury here, and I was able to kill both Grist and Spyro, and start attacking. So my opponent conceded at this point. That was game two. Let's see game three. I think game three was Murktide. I'm not sure. Also, very cool games. At least I think so. I had a pretty good hand. So Stone Cookbook turn one, Stoneforge turn two, holding Rocco for turn three. I think that's and just having another Stoneforge in the hand if they kill the first one. I think is pretty good. They casted the Ragavan here. Probably holding removal, so it was ideal time for me to just cast my Rocco safely, get maximum value, get my Asmo, get my cookbook, and it's definitely very good play. I'm just very satisfied with this play. They obviously holded removal there. Okay, so this was pretty important situation because they had four cards in graveyard and two lands, and they obviously wanted to cast Murktide, but they missed the fifth card in graveyard, so they attacked with Ragavan. I could have just let Ragavan hit me, so they would play, but they would still be able to play Murktide for 3 mana. And this, me just having Eldrami's Call in hand was a perfect situation for me to let them play Murktide because it will be 6/6, and I'll find another Asmo with Maya Cole and just kill their Murktide and take away the game completely. So yeah, this was a definitely defining moment for this game. Just finding my Asmo, discarding the land, finding another cookbook, playing another cookbook, sacking 2 food tokens. I decided to that my stone forges here are more valuable than my Caldera. Uh, Unfortunately, I drew sword, so I wasn't able to tutor both other of my equipments, but I had my lance edge, had my sword in hand with a lot of creatures on the field. Definitely feels good. Also, just playing Ranger and Rocco in the deck. Okay, sorry, I had to take a little break. So we stopped somewhere here. Uh, as I said, I was able to just play my Asmo, play second cookbook, and just kill the Murktide here, which is definitely very good, especially with 2 Stoneforges in hand. Uh, yeah, I was able. I'm not sure where I exactly stopped before taking pause, so I just continued from here. Mm, but I think we are good. Okay, so my opponent had played a Charmander turn, took my Asmo away, unfortunately, but I'm still okay with the two equipments in my hand, so I decided just to pass the turn and wait for Stoneforge abilities to uh, drop both of them onto the battlefield and start just to try to equip the sword on one of the creatures. I definitely traded with Dragon here, but I decided to let this damage through. Yeah, so I tried equipping Stoneforge and I succeeded, and that was really that put me in a really good position. I didn't play Hierarch pre-combat because I wasn't sure what will I draw with sword, but I just wanted to keep some mana for gaining life with cookbook if needed, and it wasn't necessary to hurry anything because I was in such a good position with a cooked sword. Again, I decided to stay back with my tokens on. Just jump, make the tokens, remove some cards with Lion Sash to cut them off Delirium, and just hold my mana for tokens on to jump and then attack or something like that. And that was it. Okay, so that was game one. Was that game one? I think it was game one. Okay, so game two, I had okay hand, Stoneforge, uh, Forge Tender, Rocco turn three, then followed with Pyromancer. Seemed pretty good, but opponent had a pretty good hand too. I was able to play Stoneforge Mystic protected with the Forge Tender, so I definitely wanted to find my Caldra here. And they played explosives on one, probably just to trigger Ledger Shredder. Yeah, this Ledger Shredder is a pretty good creature in the Murktide, and they were able to raise this uh, Germ token. I think I could have probably played better. Yeah, I definitely could have. I just needed to play my Jamis, uh, just kill their Murktide, and be sure that I'm in no danger until next turn. But I decided to play my Rocco, so to try to force them to not attack with both creatures, and just decided to play my cookbook so I can make one token in their, one food in their turn, one in mine, and just kill them uh, with my creatures. But they only had one card in hand at this point. But unfortunately, they drew into iteration and then into consider, and then unfortunately into second Murktide, which got really large, and that was it. This attack was lethal. This attack was lethal, so they had a very good top deck, and I could have played safely, just play my Adrami's Call and solitude their Murktide, but that would gain them a lot of life. And I opted for this play where I threatened to kill them next turn if they attack. So pretty good draws for them. And let's see game three. Okay, so game three, playing first, pretty good hand, I would say. I had Rest in Peace, Noble Hierarch here, also my Ragavan connected, and I drew Expressive Iteration. Unfortunately, I already played land, so I couldn't play my land from that. But anyway, I was in pretty good position still. Had my Hierarch, Ragavan. They find Shredder, sorry. Um, but as I had two resting pieces, I decided just to go Solitude first, exile one resting piece, and then attack first, see what will I exile. And after that, just play my resting piece and hold my Johnny's Call. Um, they had another iteration. My Johnny's Call was pretty safe end of turn. I couldn't find anything. But I think best option here is just Rocco. But this time I didn't go for Asmo because didn't have a lot of cards in my hand that I could discard, and having a sword of fire and ice felt just good and best in this position. So I didn't want to play just play my sword here into counterspell. So I decided to play my Rest in Peace, which is good if you're playing around Borrower, but bad if they have engineered explosives. I decided to play the second one just to be safe from borrower, because if they have borrower, then they can bounce it end of turn, in their turn play iteration, consider a lot of cards, and just succeed to replay big Murktide. Um, they had uh, they had explosives here and played dress down, which meant I will leave them. It will leave them on one life. I couldn't play my Stoneforge because of their explosives, but they just drew a card and conceded, and that was it. They didn't have an out. Okay, so that was game three. Game four I lost, so we'll leave that for the end, and we'll see the game five first. Okay, so playing second. I can't remember really what this deck was, but I will remember. So okay, it was control. Esper control, and seemed like a pretty easy matchup for me. Just feel like I got too much stuff going on, and each spell that goes through is definitely a big problem for them. So I decided to play my Ranger first, so my Rocco doesn't get countered. Of course, they had a counter spell for Ranger, but I was hoping uh, to try to play my Ranger. If they counter it next turn, my Rocco, sorry. If they counter it next turn, I can again go Jamis and Rocco. Um, but they didn't have counterspell, and that put me in a really good situation here. Just having two threats they had to kill. I decided to just go for the attack first. If they do anything tap out, then play my Jamis and go for Magus of the Moon. And they did play the Wonder Emperor, and I find my Magus, and they had all on basic lands, but had planes in their hand, but still it was a pretty good position for me. They had Solitude in the end, but they lost all cards in their hand just to kill my Magus. So, as I said, the play I really like in this deck, and it really happens a lot that you just start using your Asmo as a beater with hierarchs, and then you can use your cookbook to return really valuable creatures to your hand, like Ranger, um, and Ranger or Rocco, and both of them can really end the game very efficiently, especially when you have a lot of mana. I had Dragon in hand and just decided to go for Hierarch. I was ready to sack Ranger on their upkeep, but they played Solitude and they were on top deck mode, so it didn't really seem valuable. So I decided to do it on my turn, and they stole Ragavan in response, but then I was able to just cast my Kadra, attack for 7, and that was it. I feel pretty good playing this matchup. They need a lot of counter spells to deal with all the stuff when I have a good hand. So I kept an awkward hand game 2, a lot of lands, but I played Asmo turn 2. They didn't have a counter spell because they mulliganed to 5, so I was in a pretty good position. And after they mulliganed to 5, they kind of were stuck stuck in land for some time, so I was able to play out my spells efficiently, and just having two cookbooks means I can later bring back some stuff they counter, and that will definitely win you games. Um, okay, so they will had GASSS, which is good here, but at this point I was just starting uh, to be in very good position with Lancesh, Ragavan, sword in hand, Furies, two cookbooks. Okay, so I was just able to start attacking with my Lancesh. Also, my sword got through, so but they stole my Ragavan, but it wasn't a big problem. Me just having the Fury and Lancesh and sword. So I tried to play my Fury, it didn't go through. So I stayed back with Lancesh. They succeeded to kill my Lancesh too. Luckily, I didn't get anything good off the top from Ragavan, and I was able to play my Ragavan. Unfortunately, I did misplay here and didn't equip, but it wasn't much so important because they had a removal for both. But again, I had a good top deck. Ranger into Rocco just was very good for me, and I equipped, and then it was kind of over. Yeah, so pretty good draws from me in this game. I also drew another land to play my Caldra. Uh, and they had just one card in hand, and it was Solitude, and my Asmo was active. I had 2 food tokens to kill one of their creatures, so I was safe from block if they cast another Solitude, and they did. They exiled my token. I think they should have exiled the Asmo here, definitely. And then I was able to just kill one Solitude, and the attack to Dragon, of course, I just blocked with my Rocco, equipped Kalja on Asmo with sword, and that was it. They did draw Teferi, but Teferi brought them nothing, and I've just had again very good draws. Drew my Rocco, another Rocco, into Ranger, Captain of Eos, and they conceded at that point. So I had very good draws, but nevertheless, I would have played first game 3, so I was in a pretty good position, and the matchup feels this matchup feels okay for this deck. Okay, so just a second. We just have to watch one more game. This is the game I lost. As I said, I was a bit too greedy and kept one lander game 3 against Eldrazi Tron. Game 2, I started in a pretty unfavored position. They had 2 Urza lands in hand and Expedition map to find third one. Um, I did a mistake here, and that played my I sacked my fetch, but if I didn't, I would be in even worse position. So this way, they minus their Karn to kill my land, and in response, I played my Dramis to find my Fury to kill the Karn. And unfortunately, this was a Eldrazi Tron, so they didn't have a lot of these 7, 8 mana spells, and I was able to cast my Stoneforge, kill their Karn, and put myself in playable position again. They did have a removal and play their Meteor Shaper, but it's not so bad for me, so I decided just to find my charm, find my Magus, and play my Magus because then I didn't have a basic at this point. And even if I didn't have my forest, I decided still good to just good to play Magus. Um, but then I started to fall behind, and at this point I decided to block with Magus, and that just to be able to play my Rocco, play my cookbook. So they had Smasher from hand, but as my hand was Rocco and another Ranger, it was pretty okay for me. I was able to fetch, live on one life, and they played Shellism too, but it really didn't matter for my hand here. Okay, so I again went for Rocco, went for Asmo. Rocco finding Asmo here means I can play my second cookbook, discard two cards, and kill their Totnot. So I don't need to double block and just drawing another card from Totnot ability was really good. So I exiled Ugin from the their top, so definitely a bit luck there, which Ugin would be lethal. But at this point, aside from Ugin, they just didn't have to top deck Smasher. I had two cards to discard to kill Smasher, but let's say Ballista would be lethal. So I was able to come out victorious out of unwinnable situation, them casting a turn 3 Karn, exiling my land, but I was able to kill them, and it is really fun match for me, and really weird, and just just a weird match. So game 2, I kept kind of a bad hand, but had ending for their expedition map if they play it. Had Magus in hand, so I decided to try it, keep it. It didn't end up good for me. Why is this video not playing? Okay. It was a very slow hand. No Ragavan, no Dork, no basics, unfortunately. They played another Reshaper, I think. I decided to kill both of their Reshapers and just play my Magus of the Moon. I didn't again have green mana, but I had Ending and Giant Killer. I decided to try it anyway. They didn't have anything at this point. I was able to just kill their Wretched Bomb, start attacking with Magus, hold my Giant Killer in case they play Smasher, something like that. So I decided to put my Giant Killer on field um, to make better clock, but maybe that was a mistake. At this point, I should probably just they top deck Tugin, so it really does and it doesn't matter what I do. This game was over at this point. Okay, so game 3, playing first. I think I'm pretty favored to win this, but as I already said a few times, I got greedy and this hand seemed very good, playable. Um, Even if I don't draw a land, I could just go Raga 1, turn 1, turn 2, play my Hierarch, and turn 3, depending on draws, to be put myself in pretty good situation. But it really didn't work out for me. Uh, I usually don't keep, never keep this kind of lens, and it's definitely a mistake to do it. And they, of course, had Dismember and Ballista here. I did finally draw a land, and which meant that I'll be able to play my Magus next turn. Unfortunately, I didn't have any basics. If this land was basic, I think I would definitely win this game. But didn't have basic, and it was a big problem. So I played my sword and tried to attack. If I drew a land uh, on time or kept a normal two-land hand, I could have played Magus a turn before and killed their saga immediately, not not being able to block me with token, which meant that I would use my sword ability, untap, put my creatures on the field before, and just do more stuff here. And at this point, Magus was a bigger problem for me than for my opponent. I wasn't able to play any of my spells, which could potentially win me the game, especially Eljami Skull. Just Eljami Skull. And yeah, I didn't top deck anything. And a snaring bridge car just with liquid metal coating done their thing, and it was over. So that's it. As I said, a very bad decision for me to try to keep that one land hand with Dork and Dragoman, and that cost me a 5-0 for this deck, and I really think this could have been an easy win for me if I just kept normal hand. So that's it. Okay, just go to the list once again. Uh, and just say that I'm pretty happy with this deck. It's incredibly fun to play, and it has a few incredibly strong plays. And it is a Naya deck, and Naya decks traditionally miss a lot of card advantage, but I feel like this deck really um, has a lot of card advantage, and it's not a problem. It's not a problem for this deck, the lack of cards, because your Rocco just is 3 cards in one. Also, Rangers is 2 cards in one. Seasoned Pyromancer draws you 2 cards. Stoneforge is 2 for 1. Ragavan is often 2 cards for 1. Asmo also gets you a card. So almost every card in a deck except for Fury, one of Olge's Daredevil, Magus, and equipments kind of gets you some kind of card advantage, and it's a pretty good thing to have in a very aggressive Naya deck. And I'm pretty happy and optimistic about this build, and I think it will perform good in leagues, and it's generally a very fun deck to play for someone um, who likes aggro decks, aggressive decks with a lot of really a lot of answers in the main board, like Ranger, Captain Fios, can find you a creature and also win you a game against Living End, let's say, or some other Cascade decks. And just having a Jami's Call and Ranger Captain Fios means you can pretty consistently always counter their first cascade spell, especially if you have your Mana Dork or Ragavan in play. And also on sideboard, also Asmo is a very good card against a lot of decks. A lot of decks can deal with it, and just having access to Magus of the Moon, a main, and with the for Eldrami's Call can also can also good strategy that can win you a game and against a lot of decks. Two Furies also like against some aggro decks, Affinity or stuff like that. Even Hammer and Asmo plus Fury is a great tool to fight Hammer. Okay, so that's it. That's the list. That game, I think games were pretty interesting and fun to watch and play. And I really like the deck, and I'll definitely play a lot of this in the future. This was my first league with deck, and I'm pretty happy with all the cards. I won't be changing anything in the main or in the side for now. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.